Good afternoon. There's a lot of people with strategy in their role title today, and I'm no different. I'm Chief Officer for Strategy in Natural England. Natural England is government's advisor on the natural environment, and my role within that is to try and make sure that the work we do is as much about looking at the interests of the environment in the future as it is here and now. Now, what you see here on this map is a mixture of designated sites of special scientific interest, protected landscapes, both national parks and areas of outstanding natural beauty, and also then offshore. We tend to forget the offshore bit. These are designated marine protected areas, so European sites and marine conservation zones. So Rupert's bananas are well and truly blessed as they enter the southeast through this route. Now, I live in the southeast. I've lived in the southeast for 20 years. And when I first moved to the southeast, ironically from a place in the East Midlands, I got a lot of ribbing from my conservation colleagues who found it hilarious that I was moving to the southeast, this place of concrete, noise, polluted air, dust, etc., etc. The cliche. I didn't know the southeast particularly well. What I came to find, of course, as this map illustrates, but it doesn't illustrate the national context, is that the southeast has got the greatest area of protected landscapes of any region in the country. It's got the greatest extent of biological diversity of any region in the country. It's got the greatest amount of ancient woodland of any region in the country. It's got the most heathland. It's got the most chalk downland, the chalk streams, etc. In short, alongside all of the economic and social interest, it has the best environment of any part of the country. And I can say that. I've lived here for 20 years. Now, it's not a coincidence, in my view, that you have all three there. It is a function of them being together, because in my mind, part of the attraction, part of the exciting thing about a high-quality environment is it is the kind of place that people who are talented and have high aspirations want to come and live. And of course, if you attract people with those skills, with those ambitions, that is what in turn fuels the economy, and that's what we see in the southeast. It's not by segregating economic and social activity from the environment, it's about integrating it. Now, the traditional environmental story tends to be, and I'm sure people here have heard it, and I've delivered it a few times myself, here are a lot of attractive, rare animals and plants. Here's a graph showing them in their decline, and here's a plea that we must do something better and different for them in the future. Now, all of that's true, but a counsel of doom and despair doesn't provide much in the way of a solution. So I'm going to try and focus on some of the solutions here. And there are three things I'd like to leave in people's minds today. So the first one is that the environment needs to be viewed as part of our infrastructure. We've talked about the three-legged stool and other things. It is part of the infrastructure. And I say that not just for conceptual reasons. I say that because what we need to do is we need to plan for the environment in the way that we plan for infrastructure at a large enough scale, and we need to think about how we fund the environment in that scale. We can't do it in isolated penny pockets. That doesn't work for the environment, it's not good use of money, and it misses out on that key point of our integration of economy and social. The second point I want to make is around the focus on not just constraints. Rupert's flagged the constraints, and they're real. Just like any other aspect of infrastructure, there are parts of the infrastructure package that are in a place for a strategic reason, and you can't move it. But there are other parts that you can move, and what we have in the southeast is we have opportunities as well as constraints. And what we tend to do is, in focusing on the constraints, we overlook the opportunities, and we miss them. So a plea from me, think about where and how we can think about opportunities in our strategic planning as much as thinking about the constraints, because what we tend to do is we miss them because we're so focused on what's already there. A third thing, again to log, if people haven't clocked it, government's 25-year plan for the environment. And I want to emphasize it's government's plan, it's not DEFRA's plan. So this has been subject to full right round. It was launched by the Prime Minister. And it's got some really radical thinking in it, both for how we move beyond Europe in terms of regulation, beyond Europe in terms of the Common Agriculture Policy and what succeeds that. And a key one that I want to clock with people is the concept of net gain. Because at the moment, in a place, what you can do as everybody, developer, local authority alike, regulator, can deliver their environmental obligations in full, and the net product, the aggregate product of the activity, is a loss in the environment. Everyone can comply, the net product is a loss to the environment. So something is needed that fills that gap if we are to maintain the South East as we want, for the environment, for the people, but also for the economy. And this is where net gain comes in. What can Natural England do about this? A few quick examples. So firstly, one is we can work with decision makers around trying to de-risk the planning environment, the planning context. Critical to this is early engagement. Critical to this is engaging around the strategic plan, not just the end-of-pipe development control. An example of this, the dreaded Great Crested Newt, work we've done with Ray and his team in Woking, is looking at putting in place a single license at a district level or a borough level for newts, rather than individual licensing of individual developments. We all know what horrendous delays can be the product of newt licensing activities. This is set to save £200 million simply by switching to a strategic plan. That is better conservation for the newts as well. And the key thing for us in the South East is 25% of these licenses exist here in the South East. Net gain, what Natural England can do is work on proof of concept. At the moment, this is work that's being done with house builders on a voluntary basis, and it's also being done with partners like Network Rail and Highways England. We need to broaden that out and demonstrate its wider application. And thirdly, I think there's something around the evidence around the value of a healthy environment and the value to the economy and people. We need to help join up. The word integration's been used a lot of times. We need to help that because the environment, as part of the infrastructure, can help us deliver that. I'll skip over this next slide. A few quick examples. This isn't just concept, it's happening in practice. Bird Aware Solent. So this is a project built on 60,000 houses that are being put in place in this area, a new coastal path that's being designated in this area, and the need to plan strategically to accommodate both development and the environment in this place. £36 million going in to deliver this project, the environmental infrastructure associated with that project. The Thames Basin Heaths, some of you will know this. Again, 60,000 houses across a number of authorities. The area in red there is a designated area. The areas in blue are areas of environmental infrastructure that have been paid for by development, by growth. So that's private money coming in to enhance the environment in those areas. £200 million of investment coming in on the back of that. We've already heard mention of it. Lower Thames Crossing. Again, this isn't without an environmental footprint, but we've worked really well with our partner organisations to avoid major losses. There will be some minor losses, but there are big opportunities around enhancing the environment in this place as well. And let's look for those. The question that was put, what would we look for from TFSE to help in terms of the environment? Well, the first one is help by planning to integrate at scale. Don't just look at transport in isolation and environment as little things that can be done along the side. Plan at scale and help us bring the environment in. Secondly, focus on the opportunities, not just the constraints. Don't overlook the opportunities. Our job as placemakers is to make the South East better, not just keep it as good as we can. And the third one is, let's work around a net gain approach. Rupert used the term, how transport can serve to draw things together and help us bring in funding for investment in the environment and other parts of infrastructure. Thank you very much.